Roll call and call to order.
Mr. Lau,
Present.
Mr. Griffin,
Present.
Mr. Tillman,
Here.
Dr. Matusek,
Here.
Mrs. Charmison. Here.
I'd like to thank our two guests, Jack and Barbara. Appreciate you guys being here this evening. Public comments. Can't be any public comments because there's no public here, unless, Barb, you had something?
They're the media.
Consent agenda. And there's a bunch on the consent agenda. So does anyone request that we pull anything out to talk about specifically?
There's not anything that is a normal out of routine item. This is all getting back into the 23-24 school year, so maybe.
Had any of the contracts changed any type of?
I was just saying, just like the SRO, they went from 20 to 21, but there was nothing drastic. The only thing that was drastic on the price that you're approving is that school insurance. I just wanted you to see that, and that's, we kind of knew that was going to happen once. There was two people that used to do it, now there's one.
That's right.
And
that's been a common theme.
yeah, and so, that roughly a 24-25% increase, and some of that is the reinsurers, but the other you don't know about. And so, but it is good school insurance, and at least we have one to choose from, because our agent went and looked for two other companies and hit them up, and we're just Oklahoma's a Cat 5 state, that the guys on the coast and powers that be that are not in Oklahoma, it is not a high market here that people want to insure Oklahoma. So I don't see it getting any better anytime soon.
And we've used it several times. And
Yeah, they've never denied anything. They've been very good to us, so.
I got nothing.
I had nothing on it.
I don't.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mr. Griffin,
Aye.
Mr. Tillman,
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
Regular business, 4.1, discussion and possible board action regarding the application for deregulation of the Hennessey Upper Elementary and Hennessey High School Library per statute OAC 210-35-971.
That's just, for so many students, you're supposed to have so many librarians, and we anticipated a lower number that would be right at it. So we'll be over a little bit, but just not very much that justifies getting another librarian. So that's kind of
That number's 500 in the two buildings.
Yeah. That upper and lower, and you gotta remember that lower elementary, they don't utilize the library per se quite like what the 1st through 4th grade will. So that's the reason you can do that too.
So we're increasing a librarian? Is that what
No, we're, by getting this deregulation, we don't have to go hire somebody.
Gotcha. All right.
And we have an aide there, we put an aide. So. I say that?
I don't think
thought-
so.
thought
I
he
think we
moved somebody.
could.
I thought he moved somebody over there.
Not, I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay.
I'll move to approve 4.1.
I'll second.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Tillman,
Yes.
Dr. Matusek,
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
Item 4.2, discussion and possible board action regarding a statutory waiver for the alternative education program serving fewer than 10 students per state statute 70 OS 1210.568.
Yeah, years ago, Hennessey used to be in a co-op with Alted, and therefore we didn't have to worry about this, but we've never had a sustained number of students where it's over 10, and that's what you have to be, a self-sustained program. There's, I think, 16 criteria that we still meet as far as the educational needs of those students. And Mr. Faulkner has done a tremendous job of working with the State Department, because remember before we used to get rid of 2 or 3 times every year. So I think we're away from that. We just have to ask for a deregulation, because we're, I think last year we finished with right at 6 kids, and this year we'll start in that 6 to 8 range. So still providing the same services as if we had 20, 25 kids.
Questions?
I'll move to approve 4.2.
Second.
Mr. Lau,
Aye.
Mr. Griffin, Mr. Tillman,
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
Item 4.3, Board of Education to consider adoption of a resolution approving and affirming an equipment lease purchase agreement and authorizing the execution of the same, acknowledging assignment of the lessor's interest in equipment lease purchase agreement, designating lease transaction as a qualified tax exempt obligation and authorizing school district officials to execute any and all necessary documents in connection with the aforementioned transactions.
So this is part of the LED district-wide conversion of getting rid of, the old fluorescent lights and upgrading everything to LED. Farmers Electric, working with them, and they worked with OG&E. They're the ones that come in and did the audit and, see what kind of incentive we can get. The quote, as attached here, was roughly $189,000. After all incentives, and there may be a few changes, but roughly we're looking to get back about $12,000, so a net cost of around $177,000. Nice thing about the lease purchase is it allows you to work directly with the vendor. That way you know where they are, who's doing it. Caleb being local, they've done a good job for us through all these years. Got a hold of Jordan Smith. He's been our financial advisor for a long time. What he did, contacted 2 local banks, and he has the ability to go out and what rate are you going to get, what rate are you going to, and can negotiate, not just like a sealed bid. And so Community State Bank came back with a 5.5% interest rate. That document is now added. When you originally first got assembled meetings, I sent you a picture of the LED rooms versus just, a picture, and then the quote. Did everybody get a chance to look at the lease documents with Community State Bank? Okay. So with that, what we would do, time frame, if approved, he put it on a 5-year note. There is no penalty for an early buyout. So my thought was, once we get into this, as soon 1 month into it, you're seeing gross production is there. We finish the year very strong. After he gets everything installed, which he thinks it'll take about a month to get equipment in.
Starting when?
Starting in about a month by the time they get all the equipment in, the materials, then take them 2 or 3 weeks. So right when we're coming back to school, he should be finishing up. And then upon acceptance of everything, then we'd know what gross production, just pay it off. That would be my recommendation.
If you haven't been in the rooms with and without, I mean, it's,
I made sure to took Dr. Matusik down there, and what started it was the art room and what is now the IT room. We did those. Well, teachers walking through are just like, I want this in my room, and so everybody saw it. So it was like, oh dang, I knew that was coming. So,
should have been one of the back offices.
Yeah. So yeah, we went through the fax room, and yeah, it's definitely needed. So that would be kind of as proceeding forward how I would recommend to the board that we do that.
Questions? I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 4.3. Please don't make me read that again.
Please
But it's
don't.
about
I'll
the
second it.
purchase. Yeah. Oh,
It'll
thank you.
prevent you from reading it.
Mr. Lau?
Aye.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes.
Dr. Matusek?
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison? Yes.
New business.
No new business to act upon.
Agenda item number 6, superintendent's reports.
Okay, so a lot going on with summer facilities. We did the elementary playground with the black vinyl fence and the concrete curb, and it stopped in the northeast corner right up by the outdoor classroom. So we're having a lot of grass come over, and so we're going to go ahead, and I've got the 2 last time Buddy and then our gentleman out Enid, and they're just going to finish that all up. It'll run all the way around that, and then also on the east side where the cars come through and we have that fence, it needs to be replaced as well. So we'll have black vinyl fence around that entire part.
Really looks good.
It does. They do a good job. Yeah. The IT room, we had the IT room. It was Mr. Cameron's office that was in kind of the back of the middle school. That freed up. We're going to move it into what was the old shop room here on the west end, southwest corner of the high school. You have the art room that we're going to fix up this summer, actually paint it. We've already done that to that north room. And then we've cleaned out the storage, so Ray and Todd, their IT room. We're not moving servers, not having to move that type of stuff, but just loose equipment and secure it. So that gives them a lot nicer room. And that middle school, that room that was theirs, that will now be Miss Jones's counselor's office right there.
That room that they made the IT, that's as big as this room.
It's nice.
I mean, it's a big room.
It is very nice. I don't know if you guys saw that, but right on the east side of Timberly's office, right out her window, right when we took possession of the dome, right when I was hired, that started cracking, and it's just continued to get worse. And I mean, it was a drop off in some areas about that high. So anyway, Buddy saw cut that and went, I think it was 30 feet, 30 by 7 that he replaced. Maybe it's a little longer than that. I can't remember.
You might have to
exactly.
do more.
And you can see, but there was a big 3 or 4 foot bench change of a trip hazard, and that ran for 10, 15 feet.
I asked Buddy what had caused that, and he said that basically that section it runs concrete all the way between the high school and the dome and the parking lot. And when they came out with a curb to the parking lot, it's just butted up against each other. That curb goes under it, and he said even though you have expansion cuts in there, he said it's just too much. And he said what he's going to do when he comes back over it, he's going to put this curb on top of the pavement on the parking, so it'll overlap just a little bit, so it has room to. It won't do that again.
Expand.
It won't expand and buckle that again.
Exterior doors, if it's still sunny when you leave tonight, there's 6 doors, 2 on the south, north, and west, that the metal frames just faded and brown. The dome doors, none of the 5 sets there have ever been painted. That's the primer gray. We got some on the old middle school or the old high school gym, faded blue. And then if you look on the east side of the daycare, you got about 3 different colors on that. So we're going to get all those painted and do it the brown that I think it's our brown that matches the gutter system and everything. And the garage door also on the dome. So I'm going to get that done and try to get everything brightened up a little bit. Visited with Hennessey building and the football pavilion. They're just waiting on that to dry out, and then Buddy's going to get the concrete poured and then get started. So the material is there, just waiting it to get delivered and just dry out a little bit. And when they get that done, they'll move into the baseball canopy. Fax room, I took Mr. Lau in it the other day. It's completely demoed. Everything's off the wall. Throughout the years, and even before I got here, there was a leak that would show up on the south wall of the fax room and kind of get into the hallways. And so now's the time that Dal is going to come in and fix that. I'm going to have to reroute some of the electrical work, and then once I do that, then the cabinets are in, appliances, get everything put back. Carpet's scheduled to go in late July, so she should be up and running by the time we get to school. And then with the painting the room and new lights, that's going to be really nice.
It was a plumbing leak, or not a roofing, or?
There's a plumbing leak, yeah, and it's just at certain times, and.
Like when they ran the dishwasher or something?
No, it would come and go. There was no pattern that they could
Couldn't
figure
identify
out.
what it was?
No. And it was in an area that they didn't have to tear out the cabinets to get to it to find it, so, and I didn't get a chance to talk with Jared.
Now those cabinets are torn out, so.
Yeah. So if you guys want to come swing by the high school sometime and see what's going on there. That storage end on the south end of the daycare, that IT room that we moved, there was a little area that was Donnie's office, and to much to his chagrin, we've kind of cleaned out some stuff that needed to be cleaned out there and moved over. Randy and Taylor and Gary have been working with that. Going to put a roof, there's still a need for some storage over there, so Keith's building a wall for us, but I think with the additional square feet that we're getting into that gives us, is it 3 kids?
I think it'd be more than that, I don't know.
3 to 5. I can't remember because the wall wasn't as big as what we originally thought. And so it's like 3 to 5 kids, somewhere in that range, that it still gives us access for. Which is good, because without that, I think we would have 1 or 2 on the waiting list this year of just employees' kids. So another great benefit that we offer. The dome, if you go in and walk or just want to come in, all the seats in that upper section on the east side are done. So the 2 outside, you have the bench seats with chair backs, and then the inside sections are all actual chair backs, seat backs with armrest. So it matches just what we have on the bottom. It looks really good.
Will the height challenge people like myself, will they be able to sit over that rail?
That rail's, we lowered it, remember?
I do.
Get you a little booster seat there.
I just want to know if there are booster seat options.
I will get one.
Hey, we have an opening on the scores table this next basketball season.
Oh.
Sit closer, there you go.
And operate.
I'll get you a booster seat down there too if you need it. And transportation building, is with architects. Timeline right now, they've been working with civil and all the different engineers. They should have a rough draft for us to review next month. Look at a really good layout, talk about wash bay or office area, wherever it is, lighting. Make any changes that we want, and then that gives them another month to go back. And so we're looking at probably like August, bringing a finalized set to put out for bid. Put that out right after the August meeting. That puts us into September. I think like the bid opening would be the 6th or 7th, and we'd be able to award contract on that first Monday. Doing a construction or a general contractor, not hiring a CM because it's just a shell, small little office area. Hopefully we have some local bidders, and I know they're more than capable of being the GC on that without having to do a complex project where you need a construction manager, so save a little bit of cost there. So that's what all we got going on with the facilities and all the upgrades this summer. Any questions? Huh?
Would you like to talk about a ditch?
Oh, except the ditch, bring back the ditch, and I forgot to bring paperwork on that. But I got to thinking, and I ran this by Mr. Lau the other day. So basically you had the two projects, the ditch, and then, of course, that's gonna be filled up. And a portion of that was gonna, put the parking lot over, but, the 2/3 of that parking lot on the west side of that didn't involve the ditch. And so I have not had a chance, I want to visit with you guys. Just take the elementary parking lot, the demo of the middle school and elementary parking lot, and run it out to about where that one lane was that, Patrick, we talked about where you could come off the road or whatever, and just eliminate that lane to where we're not messing with the ditch. And then Mr. Lau brought up the idea of, maybe you could just pour concrete down the sides and still leave it in the center open where that line, that way we're not ever interrupting their water line. If it breaks, it's easy access. But the ditch wouldn't be flat, wouldn't be parking, but it would be something that a lot more aesthetically pleasing than now. Definitely not the mowing.
It would at least clean up the ditch. And when he says pour concrete, that's not just, with a bucket, but you've seen those ditches that are finished, drainage ditches that have a concrete line. And I wondered if that would be an option.
Yeah.
It wouldn't fill the ditch, wouldn't provide us that extra 20 or so parking spaces there, but it would at least clean it up. And rather than Donnie having to get down in there with a weed whacker, we could just spray the seams with Roundup every year.
So basically we'd be going back to that project right to about the easement line on the plans. And I'll scan that and send that to you guys tomorrow so you have a better idea.
Would we still pick up a second lane of parking?
We would.
And then still do the lights in between the two rows
Yes,
of parking?
yeah, all the parking, everything wouldn't change. We would lose that 1/3
That last
right next to the road where
yeah.
we talked about the parking bumpers being kind of closed. That's what we would lose. So what did I say that day? We'd go to 56 parking spaces.
From 80, I want to say.
There's like 88.
88 to 56. Yeah,
Yeah.
about 20 parking spaces that were just right up against the blacktop, right
Yeah.
up against the road.
Yeah.
And of course, when you leave the ditch there, you wouldn't have those, but you'd still clean it up, and you would still increase your parking, and hopefully there's some traffic flow there in front of your grade school. and
Enhance the
middle
traffic
school.
flow, and clean up the concrete and everything on that side.
Thought it
So-
might be worth to at least get a price and see what.
Well, because if you look at the demo, the bid we got back was just under 600,000. That did not include anything with the water line, just that part 2 of that bid that dealt with the parking lot and that portion. So what I'd like to do is get with that bidder.
Talking about the parking lot where the tennis courts are.
No, I'm sorry, we're still staying on the west side by the
Still on the
elementary.
west side.
Yeah, if we want to pursue this, as soon as we get the transportation bids in, then the architects will go to work on that tennis lot, or tennis area, that demo, and then that way we'll take plenty of time. We'll have it out for bid, that we can award bids like in April, and then that way they can mobilize and start doing what they need to do in May of next year, right after
I
baseball.
mean, it's still gonna be a ditch though.
It would.
Still gonna be a ditch.
It's just a thought.
Yeah, no, I'm willing to listen to the proposal or the idea more than just verbally saying it, but that needs to be leveled in my opinion.
Well-
I don't want any ditch at all in my
And I
opinion.
agree, a lot of this though, we're doing some of the city's work, I
Yeah.
think we need to, until they get stability and see which direction they're going, you know, do they need to replace that line before we cover it up, and then they come to us a month later, so, you know, I just think we need
Well, there
to.
needs to be a lot of forethought put into it.
Yeah.
And if we just went up to the edge there, I think, just like you, I think everybody's in agreement, we don't want a ditch, I don't think the city wants a ditch, but how can we do it together and where we don't have to replace it?
And I don't know, but there's something in the newspaper about the work they're doing south of Oklahoma, and they didn't talk like they were, I don't want to misquote it, but it seemed like they did not get enough of a grant to do one block or something down there, and then,
I know they're unhappy with the drainage.
yeah.
I
and
do
they're
know
unhappy
that,
with the
I don't know
drainage,
anything
and
about
so, yeah, I wasn't sure what was going to happen there.
I'm kind of unhappy with the drainage on the highway that, you know. is
Coming into
Oh, you
your,
mean
your pond, your
Oh,
pond?
yeah, and they're not even willing to stock it either, you know.
Oh, no, you have plenty of mosquitoes there.
Yeah, there's gonna be that.
Jack, did
My
you
dog doesn't have any place to go potty.
My question was, if you made a concrete ditch out of that, the town would still have to cut into that if there was a leak somewhere.
Right.
So-
But it'd be easier to cut through 4 to 6 inches of concrete than it would 5 foot of fill.
Right,
You
pull
know,
the conduit out, everything,
Yeah.
yeah.
And plus we're doing it the other way, that drain line's on top of that water line too.
Yeah.
Now we got it, or it's offset, I mean, that was the idea, is to
Yeah.
offset it, so we're still
Yeah.
kind of working
So
around it
It's
possibly.
not a great solution, it was just an idea that.
Yeah.
No, and I appreciate the idea as well.
Well, and
One thing that pops into my mind, I'm sorry it
No.
does, but skateboards, I mean, that pops into my mind.
we said that, yeah, that's exactly what we said. Because originally when I was thinking about it, I thought, well, I wondered if you could do almost like turn a cattle guard and then just put, you know, screens across
Oh,
them.
no, apply for
Something
a
like
skate,
that,
a skate
You know,
park
and that way
grant.
underneath it wouldn't matter. That
A
way we need to work
recreation
on it.
grant.
Right.
So I'll visit
Ramps in there.
get back with engineer a little bit on that and see if that's even viable options.
It's not a perfect solution, but
No.
it would clean the appearance somewhat, you know.
Here, I would like it to be kind of a double impact thing, and to where you're spending that money on the concrete and you're getting a parking spot, you know. That's the only thing that I would have.
It's temporary in the sense
It's the only
eventually
thing
you
that I
wanna
would
tear it
have.
out and put
Yeah.
new concrete there.
I would have a little reservation, but obviously willing to listen to the
Yeah,
idea.
I'm gonna listen to it.
That dang water line really
Oh, yeah,
makes it hard for us.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just some
yeah.
spitballs on the chalkboard. All right,
That's all I have.
anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, item number 7, personnel. Proposed executive session to discuss the following concerning employees for the 2023-2024 school year, which is in accordance with 25 OS Section 307B1, certified salary schedule, extra duty salary schedule.
Move to enter.
Second.
Thank you. God.
Mr. Lau.
He was gonna keep
Aye.
going, wasn't
Mr. Griffin.
he? Here he is.
Mr. Tillman.
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
Start reading it
I
again
know.
if we don't make a motion.
7:23, James, just so you know.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, coming out of executive session back into the regular meeting. At 7:23, we entered executive session, all members present. We also had a guest, Mr. Sternberger. Only the agenda items 7.1 through 7.5 were discussed, no votes were taken, and we entered our open session at 8:11. So, moving on, 7.2, discussion of possible board action regarding the employment of the following summer staff: Rihanna Fuchsa, Chelsea Heltzel, and Shelby Black.
Recommend that to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Lau.
Aye.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Tillman.
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
Item 7.3, discussion and possible board action regarding the certified salary schedule and extra duty salary schedule for the 2023-2024 school year.
I'd recommend those two salary schedules as presented.
I'll I'll make a motion, we approve those salary schedules.
Second.
Mr. Lau.
Aye.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Tillman.
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison. Yes.
Item 7.4, discussion and possible board action regarding the employment of the following certified staff on a temporary contract and support staff for the 23-24 school year. Certified would be elementary teacher, support, daycare worker, elementary aide, and a monitor for the walking track.
We're still looking for an elementary teacher, so hopefully I can have one to recommend next month. For the daycare, recommending Amber Beeman, and elementary aide Megan Wright, and then hopefully next month have somebody to recommend for the monitor for walking track as well.
Move to hire.
Second?
Mr. Lau.
Aye.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Tillman.
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison.
Yes.
Item 7.5, discussion and possible board action regarding the approval of the following adjunct teachers. Matthew Fuchsa for physical education, Kimberly Faring-Grites for chemistry computer science, Stephanie Gwynn art, Brady Page intermediate mathematics, math and finance, and Paul Rout physics.
Make that recommendation to the board, please.
I'll recommend, or I'll make a motion that we approve those hires.
Second.
Mr. Lau.
Aye.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Tillman.
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison.
Yes.
Item 8, adjourn.
Motion made.
Second.
Mr. Lau.
Aye.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Mr. Tillman.
Yes.
Dr. Matusek.
Yes.
Mrs. Charmison.
Yes.